Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today is, I know, kind of a long awaited video for some of you because as you guys probably know, I went to Iceland last year, at the end of last year, and I've had so many people asking me questions on how I did it. Not just, you know, on here, just people in real life and people that found out that I went to Iceland. Everyone's just been asking me what I did, how, like, recommendations I have, how I traveled, and everything under the sun. So I really wanted to do this video because I know Iceland's kind of a hot spot to go right now, which is really funny because, like, my mom and I were talking about, you know, not too long ago, it was like, Iceland, why in the world would you want to go to Iceland? So I wanted to sit down and make this video for you guys. I am going to be breaking this up into two portions. This video is just going to be covering like budgeting and the expenses, that kind of portion, and you know, how you can do Iceland on a budget and have like the do's and the don'ts of, you know, services to use while you're in Iceland and so forth. The next video that I'll be doing will be a video on like what there is to do, more of like the travel aspect and everything like that. But yeah, that'll be a video that I'll be doing next because this would be like a 50-minute video if I put them together. So anyways, to get into the video, back in November, this kind of all came together last minute, just to give you guys kind of some context behind my whole Iceland trip. I had been really wanting to take vacation and, you know, from work and everything, like I should do something, you know, this year. And my parents, they were in Africa. They do traveling every year. So this year they were visiting Africa, which was really cool. And so while my parents were gone, I made this spontaneous thing that I'm gonna go to Iceland by myself. And I did this because either my friends, they already took their vacation time, couldn't get any more time off, or already had other plans and whatnot. So I just had this realization of, I don't need anyone else to go with me. And I did a lot of research, and I actually learned that Iceland is one of the safest countries to travel to by yourself, fortunately. So I was like, perfect, like I'll just, like, I can do this. I'll have so much fun with myself because I love traveling by myself, but that was going to be like my big first solo trip by myself. And I was really nervous about telling my parents because I thought they would freak out. So I sent my mom an email because that's the only way I could communicate with her, because she had like no service out there. And she's like, you know, I got an email back and she's like, good for you, Mo, like so glad you're doing that, blah blah blah. I was like, oh my gosh, she's not freaking out. And then shortly after, I get another email from her, maybe a day later, saying, okay, check into flights, see how much it would cost me to come join you in Iceland, because the time I was going to be going to Iceland, there was only like a day in between until she got back. So she was going to be getting back into the States, and then the next day I was going to Iceland. So there was like no time really in between. So long story short, this is where I'm gonna get into all the budgeting and everything like that. For her, because she lives back home in Atlanta, and so for her to fly to Iceland and meet me there was going to be close to $2,000. And I was like, she's not going to want to do this because she took like a huge trip to Africa. What I did was I flew this airline called WOW Airlines, and I'll get into like the whole airlines and about them in a second. But what I did was I purchased her a flight from Atlanta to LAX, and then it couldn't have worked out any better. I mean, it was just really, everything happens for a reason. I mean, it just worked out beautifully. And I think there was like a 3-hour in between gap until my Iceland flight boarded. So got her to LAX and then got her on the same flight as me to Iceland on WOW Airlines, and then we took off to Iceland. So WOW Airlines, the great thing about them is I believe they fly out of 5 different cities. And so what I would recommend to you guys, if you don't have your WOW Airlines isn't near you, I think there's one in Los Angeles, there's one in San Francisco, there's one in New York, there's one in Boston or Washington one, and there might be one out in Miami, I'm not sure. But my recommendation is to fly to one of those places where WOW Airlines is, because WOW Airlines flies to everywhere in Europe, and that's where they fly to. And it's such a cheaper alternative. It's ridiculous how much cheaper it is. So for my mom, I got her flight and everything under $1,000, which is really awesome. For my flight and for her flight, we got them for I think $530 round trip, which is really, really great. Now, WOW Airlines is wonderful. It's a budget airline. And so what I mean by that is there's no frills, everything costs money. Like if you want a cup of water, that's going to cost you, I think it's like 75 cents or $1, something crazy like that. So everything costs money in one way or the other. And so for me, that's fine with budget airlines. Like I don't mind doing that because I'm more than happy to entertain myself. I actually prefer that. Like I'll bring all my gear, you know, food, entertainment, movies, load it all up on my iPad, I'm good to go. But the one thing that gets me with budget airlines is I need to have leg room because I'm 5'9", I want my space, I have to have my space. And I was really surprised. So WOW Airlines, it's a big airline, it's 3 rows, so it's a big plane, and I had plenty of leg room, and then there was a charger and everything for me to charge my devices, good to go. So I mean, I was really pleased with that. I mean, I had a really pleasant experience with the airline. The only downfall is luggage. So for you to bring on luggage is a crazy thing. I think it's about like $90 one way just to bring on a carry-on or something like that. So that was an expense I wanted to totally eliminate. I was like, you know, let's just be crazy, and like we don't need all that. Like I was like, I'm not paying $90 for that, and like, you know, I was like, that's stupid. So what I did was I packed everything in a Herschel backpack. And I looked at the size dimensions and everything like that because they are really strict. So if you're doing this and you don't want to pay, you know, $90 each way, definitely recommend you taking on a backpack. And so what I did, because I did go in the winter and I did need to bring outer gear and all that kind of stuff. So what I did was I got space saver bags, not the ones that you need a vacuum to use. I got the ones where you can roll it out yourself, which recommend, don't buy the vacuum ones. So I got those, stuffed all my layers and everything in there. Then got my winter coat, my raincoat, all that stuff. Like I said, all the stuff, like what I packed, all that junk will be in the next video for this. Got all that, and then packed my coat pockets with, you know, gloves and scarves, like all that kind of stuff. And then that's how I carried on my rain jacket and my heavy coat. Wore my boots, everything that I was going to be wearing, wore everything on the plane. No problem whatsoever. I was good. So that's how I avoided that whole extra cost of that. When we got there, for car service, so I decided to do the ring road, which is the road that goes all around Iceland, which is something I highly recommend, especially if you really want to get a good feel for Iceland, because there's just so many things that you can't see just staying at the southern end of Iceland. So really recommend, if you have time, to do the ring road. That's something you can do in a week. It's fine. So what we did is I did a car rental service by Sad Cars, and they were probably like the cheapest car service that I saw in Iceland. I think it was about, I want to say $160 for a week for renting a car. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. So the car rental service, it's not like they do in the States, where I think like the States you have to, it's a law that these cars have to be switched out, you know, every so often. It always has to be a newer car that they're loaning out to people that you're renting. And apparently that's not the same case in Iceland, because guys, we got this really, really beat up old car, and that's fine, but when you look a little further, this car had over 100,000 miles on it. And this car, guys, was beat up. This is like a whole other story in itself. Like my mom and I were like dying, like what the heck is this car? Like one of the cars, like they had to switch out our car because one had like a hole in the roof, and my mom's like, well, what if it rains? And the guy was like, I mean, you should be fine. My mom's like, what? And then tries to shut the door won't even shut. And guys, like this car was so beat up, rust all over, like looked like the poor car had a hard life, like really hard life. And like I said, like I don't mind driving that, but what really concerned me was the mileage on the car. And you know, this is not a car that I've personally been servicing and know that, you know, mechanically everything's functioning, and I've taken care of this car. Like I've gotten the oil change when I needed to get it done, I've serviced it when I needed to get done. I don't feel comfortable, especially driving around the whole entire country in this car. So that was something that my mom and I were like really worried about, because you're out in the middle of nowhere. Iceland's extremely rural, there's not places around like that, and it was just a huge concern to us driving this car that had that many miles on it. And you know, the outside, like it looked like, if the outside looks that beaten up, it's like, what kind of beating has the engine taken? And so that was the whole fear behind that. Another thing, so like I said, I don't really know if I would recommend that car service, just because we lucked out with it. We got back in one piece, the car didn't break down. even though I do got a story for you on that. But you know, I don't really know if I would recommend that company, because that's just, it's sketchy. With that many miles, anything can go wrong and it can instantly ruin your vacation. So there's that. Also, another thing I wanted to note, if you do go in the winter, I highly recommend you getting a 4-wheel drive car. So SUV, we ended up getting a compact car, which we just got really, really lucky with, that everything worked out, and the weather, you know, just got bad when we were getting ready to leave, so with the snow and everything like that. So that's another thing just to keep in the back of your mind. Winter is the best time to go, I think, but you know, just to keep in the back of your mind. Next to that, after we got our rental car and everything like that, we went to a grocery store to get all the food for the week. And this is another thing that I highly recommend, just because a lot of times when I go on vacation, I will just, you know, eat out and stuff like that. But this is not, like, even if you're not trying to save money, you're not trying to go that route, this is still something you probably want to do, because there's no restaurants in Iceland. There's not many places, especially if you do the ring road, guys. Like, there's just not many restaurants out. And you know, in towns like Vic and places like that, there's just, you maybe only have like one choice of a restaurant. And I know the restaurant that we ate there, we actually went to the hotel restaurant, because the other one, and I'm all for local food, like, trust me, I'm down, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So that's another thing. It's not 100% really developed for tourists yet. They don't have that many places like that going on. I mean, they're developing, they've, you know, definitely building more hotels and everything like that, but it's still like nothing for the whole country, you know, especially when you're traveling around. So we ended up stocking up on groceries so we could have breakfast, lunch, and, you know, if need be, dinner. Everything that we wouldn't need to refrigerate and so forth. So we had all that ready to go, which is something, again, highly recommend, getting waters and everything like that. Gas, this is a big thing that I kept hearing about traveling to Iceland, and that was the cost of gas, the cost of food. Now, I live in Los Angeles, which Los Angeles is a very expensive city. And my take on it is, and I heard a lot of people complaining about the cost and how expensive it was while I was there. And to me, living in Los Angeles, like, there wasn't a difference. I personally, it's the same. It's pretty much the same. If I had to say, I would say food might have been like a teeny bit more just eating out. But honestly, it was the same for me. If you're from a smaller city, then that's where I can see, like, okay, yeah, it's gonna seem like a lot, because unless you're used to living in a big city like New York or Los Angeles, then it will be expensive. But like I said, it was same as what I'm used to. Gas, same thing. I heard gas was really expensive. I mean, it costs me less money to fill up this car than it does my own car, you know, here in LA. So that was another thing that I didn't think was crazy or anything like that. I think I paid, it ranged like $27 to like $35 to fill up the whole time, you know, for a tank. And to me, that's fine. I'll take it. Again, those are just like little things. I guess it's just all in what you're used to paying. Aside from that, just visiting places and stuff like that, there wasn't really, I think there was only one attraction that we had to pay for. I think it was about $10 per person. So that was the only attraction that we had to pay for. So that was really good. Everything else is just out in the open. You don't have to, you know, worry about any kind of fees or anything like parking. There's like some parking fees here and there, and again, that's probably like $5 to $10 depending. So everything's relatively, you know, just open for grabs. So for the price of hotels, of course, I'm not a hostel kind of girl, so I'm not doing that, especially with my mom. Like, that's just something, like, I don't know, I didn't want to do. I wanted to stay at a regular hotel. The price range, like, we stayed in a nice hotel, we stayed at like a mid-price hotel and so forth. So we kind of stayed in that spectrum. So anywhere between, I think we paid like $120 to $180 is what we were paying. And that's another thing just to be mindful, because we did get stuck in this terrible situation where we didn't have a hotel for the night because we were out in the middle of nowhere. The closest hotel was like far. We were super tired, and we're like, we're just gonna camp out next to this glacier. So we camped out next to a glacier, and it was the worst experience ever because it was freezing. We layered up with all our gear. Guys, it was so cold. And then on top of it, mind you, we're sitting next to this glacier, right? So you already know it's freaking cold as I don't know what. The car is shaking because it's so windy, and it's kind of like from a movie scene or something. The whole ground's flat out there, and we're just like out in like a middle of like a rock field kind of next to this glacier, it almost looks like. And my stomach starts killing me, guys, like killing me. And I'm like, oh my God. Like my mom and I, we couldn't have slept more than like 2 hours the whole night. I woke up, my mom was like, Mom, are you awake? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I have to go to the bathroom, like my stomach is killing me. And it was so bad, guys, because it was pouring down rain out there. It was super, super windy. And my mom's like, oh God, Morgan. I'm like, I have to, Mom, I have to. And it's like, I can laugh about it now, but at the time it was just so unfortunate. And I had to get out there, guys, and go to the bathroom, and I'm just like getting drenched, like rained on, and I'm like freezing. I'm like, my butt's gonna get frostbite. But yeah, it was so bad. But yeah, that was the one night we had to sleep in our car. And so yeah, that's, I mean, it happens, guys. You know, it's an experience, so I'm gonna take it as an experience. It's something I now have experienced in Iceland. First time I've ever slept in a car like that. So the way I plan everything, because I want to be able to do what I want. I want to have the freedom to go here if I want to. I don't want to have like these structured plans, and it's never hurt me doing it that way, but I guess this time for once in my life it backfired. But yeah, so highly recommend kind of having an idea of the next town you want to hit, where the hotel is, and so forth, and then definitely checking in early and going ahead and getting that hotel before it gets dark if you're doing this during the winter when it gets dark really early. One thing that I wanted to mention that is super helpful is depending on your network carrier, because I know a lot of carriers, you have to pay for this international plan, which I know we've all probably, most of us have used at some point, and it's absolutely crazy, and it's expensive to make a call and do a text message, and it all adds up. So something, if you have Verizon, which is really awesome that I found out, it's called Travel Pass. And what this does, and this is what I used because I didn't want to pay for a GPS, and my friends that they actually paid for a GPS, and they told me that it was kind of a nightmare to use. So I didn't want to have to do that. I wanted to, you know, be able to see what the best restaurants were and everything like that to go to. So Verizon has this international plan. It works with a lot of different countries. There's some countries it doesn't work in, but Iceland was one of the ones that it did work in, thankfully. And what it does is it allows you to use your normal plan without any international fees. So what happens if, as soon as you start receiving or sending data, anything like that, it activates this plan. Once you, of course, you know, go through and add this plan onto your account, you specify what days you're going to be in whatever country you're in my case, Iceland. And as soon as you turn your phone on or anything like that, it activates the plan. And so it'll charge you $10 a day to use your phone, which is great, especially in my case that I really needed to use the phone. I used it for GPS and everything like that. So $10 a day, you know, 60 bucks for the whole time, worth it to me. You know, that's all I have to pay. I can, you know, FaceTime, I can call home, I can do anything that I want, send all the text messages, use my data, and I'm only being charged $10 a day to do so. So that's something I really recommend. That way you don't have to worry about getting a SIM card or, you know, a prepaid phone, because these were all things I was thinking I was going to do. But then when I found out about this, like, done. And you get service, or at least Verizon. I don't know about other carriers, but I only have Verizon, so Verizon worked amazing. Like, I never dropped service anywhere that I went in Iceland. I always had service. So if you have Verizon, definitely recommend doing that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for all my, you know, budgeting advice, how I would do it. It's, you know, honestly, it's a pretty, you know, inexpensive-ish trip. I think all in all, you know, it's not bad. If you guys have ever been to Iceland before, let me know. I'd love to hear about your experience. Like, what was your favorite time of year to go? I went during the winter because I wanted to see the Northern Lights. And guys, I saw the Northern Lights, and it was the most beautiful thing on the earth, and the most beautiful experience ever. I was so excited about it, and I will have to make that, you know, telling you guys all about that in another video. But I will talk to you guys soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and bye guys.